2014, this study came out that suggested that the people who graduate high school with the higher GPA and with the higher test scores, that if you track them later in life, they're more likely to have higher incomes, and their quality of life is supposed to be better as well. They're supposed to, at least their sense of well-being in their life. It's an interesting study. And so some people look at it and they think, well, then the key is let's get people's GPA as high as possible and let's get their test scores as high as possible. Problem solved, right? I'm not convinced that that's going to solve the issue. And even if it does, it might cause new ones that are even more problematic. Let me give you an example of just something to challenge maybe this GPA concept a little bit. Let's imagine that two people graduate from the same college with the same degree with the same GPA, and they're both interested in the same job, and they apply for it. And they both go through the application process, and one student is just clearly ahead of the other in the eyes of the interviewers. They hire the one and not the other. Let's say that other one actually goes and applies for 5 more jobs, and they don't get a single one. And they keep applying. That's realistic. That actually happens today. We can find examples of that. And what that seems to suggest is that GPA and test scores and the school that you go to and the credential in your hand, those don't tell the whole story. And we all know that anyway, right? Well, what does tell the story? There are all these other traits that are super important for us in our lives as citizens, in our families, in the workplace, all over the place, right? And I'm going to suggest that working on helping people recognize the importance of these other skills and nurturing them is also a real key to empowering self-directed learners. Now, some people actually, by the way, even just bringing up this concept of non-cognitive skills is what we sometimes call these, they would suggest that this is sometimes a classist type of statement. Like, we don't tell the wealthy and elite families that they need to develop these skills, and yet we're telling these others that they do. I'm not really sure that's true. In fact, we can find people from all classes and all socioeconomic statuses that have these other skills that aren't represented as clearly in GPA and test scores. And we can find that those who have these tend to thrive more, and they can develop more competence and confidence as lifelong and as self-directed learners. There's one group called CoRU, and I was at a conference a while back, and I believe it was the CEO, and she was pointing out that they've done this work on readiness for the workforce, especially college graduates who come out of college and maybe it's a great school, great GPA, all that other stuff, but they're missing something else. And they've really tried to codify this and narrow it down to these 7 areas. They call it the CoRU 7. Grit, rigor, polish, impact, curiosity, teamwork, and ownership. I'm not going to go through every one of those in detail, but I'll comment on a few of them here. So this idea of grit, of stick-with-itness, of perseverance under pressure and under fire. So you try something, it doesn't work, and you try again. And you're not so quick to quit. You realize that you have to try a lot of things and fail a lot of times to be successful. And rigor, this ability to really dig in and want something to be better and to pursue excellence in your work and the things that you're doing. And polish, the ability to have a conversation with someone, to speak eloquently and to understand that your choice of words matters, to understand that your body language matters. And impact, this ability to come into an organization and to have what you do make a difference, to have a solid impact. Or curiosity, this ability to just be really deeply curious about what's happening and why it's happening, and then digging in and trying to figure that out and using your findings to pursue something that really benefits the organization or benefits you. And teamwork, obviously, and ownership, this idea that you own your work. You're not just waiting for a boss to tell you what to do, but you're saying, hey, no, there's a problem here. I want to try to solve it. I'm going to take initiative, and I'm going to go figure it out before someone even tells me what to do. Now, those are the kinds of traits that really help people thrive in the workplace, but if you think about it, those are traits that work well in family, in citizenship, in the workplace, in community. They work all over the place. And those are some of the same traits that can help us grow as competent and confident self-directed learners. Here's the thing though, if you go into a lot of schools and classrooms, there are teachers and there are educators who really believe in these traits. But the curriculum is not built in such a way that it's intentionally, strategically trying to nurture it. Some schools are getting at this, and they're doing it, and they're discovering it, realizing why it's so important, but others aren't. And this is critical. In fact, in the last video, I talked about the digital divide, and I would suggest that nurturing these kinds of capacities in every learner will help overcome that digital divide almost more than anything else, once we address those fundamental issues of just access to the technology and the internet and so forth. So let's see if we can figure this out. Let's ask the question, how can we help nurture these non-cognitive skills that are as or more critical than some of the things that we're debating on a national level in terms of national standards and things like that? Because the reality is, if we can help people have these kinds of skills, they're probably going to have the capacity to learn those other facts when and if they need them. In the United States, there's this big talk about kind of this global gap and almost this global competition in the workforce and in the economy. And the United States education system, even the Department of Education's mission statement has wording that alludes to this idea that it's kind of positioning us well in a global marketplace. Well, we've had a lot of conversation about science, technology, engineering, and math. And if we help people have competencies in those areas, and they test well in those areas, and they know those areas well, then we'll thrive in this global marketplace. But maybe the key here is helping people grow in the capacity for curiosity and rigor, and grit, teamwork, polish, and taking initiative, things like that. What would happen if we empowered a generation of learners with those capacities?